Welcome back, America, to this post-debate special Salem Radio Network hour of analysis on what just happened. I am joined by two of our regular commentators, James Lileks of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune and of National Review, and Ed Morrissey of hotair.com. The coin flip for analytics was won by Ed Morrissey, so I begin with Ed Morrissey. Ed, what did you make of tonight's debate?
Well, I think both sides kind of did what they wanted to do. I think Paul Ryan came out and said, made sure that people understood that he was a serious, deep thinker on policy, and Joe Biden.
Can I talk?
Had to look like a fighter.
Can I talk here?
Sort of the cheap way of doing it.
With all respect to my friend Ed, God love you, he's a callow idiot. Look at him there. His whippersnapper suit, God love you. Ed wants to ignore the 47% of people who don't wait for other people to finish their points. That's my grandmother. That's my great-grandmother. That's my third cousin on Neil Kinnock's side. That's a lot of stuff. And thanks to this president, we have cut stuff by 75%.
Well, thank you, Mr. Lileks. Let's go back to Mr. Morrissey. Mr. Morrissey.
Do I get time after this?
You'll get time. You'll get a lot of time. Mr. Morrissey, if we want to focus on the substance of the debate, what would you say were the most important exchanges?
Well, I think probably the exchange on Libya was really important, and it was interesting that they started off with that. But also, I like the exchange on Afghanistan, which hardly has come up in campaign at all. And I thought that was a very interesting and substantive exchange on both sides. So those were the two areas.
I'm sorry here. He talks about substantive. And I heard Ed the other day saying that he wanted a bagel. Now, a bagel, we all love bagels, but I wouldn't call a bagel substantive. I have a letter here. Ed Morrissey, my friend, God love you, sent me a letter that said that he wanted Joe Biden to interrupt Paul Ryan as often as possible so it would look bad. I have that letter.
Mr. Lileks, can I ask you about... Mr. Lileks,
I have 47% of that letter.
Mr. Lileks, are you Catholic?
I have a deep and abiding faith that is not of the Catholic persuasion.
Mr. Morrissey, are you Catholic?
Yes, I am Catholic. And,
so would you explain your Catholicism in terms that I can understand as a moderator? Because you're not making any sense to me.
Well, it would be helpful if I was able to start off by explaining it. But,
well, you've got a lot of time, but go ahead.
Well, thank you.
Do I get to respond?
Yes, you will.
I get to respond?
I think faith...
Would you speak up, Mr. Morrissey?
I think faith informs our public policy. And so when I say that I'm a Catholic as well as a Republican, I think that those things are joint.
All right, this is too painful. I can't do it anymore because I watched it for 90 minutes. I can't. I mean, Lileks, I'm going to go to you. Thank you. You played that part very well. But what was your reaction to this?
Me?
Yeah.
Well, look, Joe Biden inherited a horrible situation, and I think that he decided to respond to that by doing exactly what people wanted him to do. And judging from my Twitter feed from the people on the left, that was great because it was punching, it was out there, it was red meat. He was as disrespectful as you needed to be because Paul Ryan and everything that he represents deserves total contempt. The left, as far as I can tell, loved the contempt. I found the whole thing almost unlistenable and unbearable because of the performance of Joe Biden. Now, when you start saying, well, we got to start talking about the optics here, and he was disrespectful, usually that means you lost the debate. But in this case, when you're that over the top, when you're that Biden-esque, I think you have to start talking about something else. You have to start talking about the independents looking at this and saying, yeah, no thank you.
What did you think, Ed Morrissey?
Well, actually, I do think that Paul Ryan did a good job of looking, potentially presidential. I think even Van Jones on CNN said that he could see Paul Ryan as a president. And I think that that's where Joe Biden failed, and I think failed spectacularly tonight. I mean, this was a weird performance. It would have been one thing if he was aggressive, if he pressed Paul Ryan on, just pressed Paul Ryan on specifics. But I mean, he's laughing, he's giggling, he's throwing his hands up in the air, he's mugging, he's interrupting. There was 82 interruptions during this in 90 minutes. That's almost one interruption per minute, and that's with Paul Ryan supposedly getting half of the time there. And so that's more like one interruption every 30 seconds during Paul Ryan's time. And it was horrible.
Ed, let me ask you, what do you think that the story would be tomorrow if the performances had been flipped and Ryan had been flashing the teeth and laughing and nodding and looking down? What do you think the general reaction would have been if Ryan had acted like Biden?
Immature, unprepared for the presidency, not presidential, an amateurish, desperate. And I think all of those things really do apply to Joe Biden. The problem is that Joe Biden is such a buffoon that I don't think any of it really is going to stick to him all that well. And I think the liberal base is going to be, sort of enthusiastic about this, like you said, James, because they were so desperate for anything after that first presidential debate that this is going to look like a win to them.
CNN post-vice presidential debate poll of registered voters. Paul Ryan wins 48%. Joe Biden wins 44%. Plus, I believe that's before the spin begins to settle in and people trust themselves to be disgusted. So, Ed Morrissey, that's not what Obama-Biden needed.
No, I don't think it's what Obama-Biden needed. But I mean, they certainly couldn't have Joe Biden get run over. But I don't think that was going to happen anyway. And see, this is the thing. I think that if Joe Biden had just stuck to being energetic during his own time and letting Paul Ryan talk, I think he would have had a pretty good debate. Joe Biden is actually not that bad on stage. He has a better stage presence than Barack Obama does in terms of being able to connect to an audience. I think that they really kind of blew it here with this strategy.
Well, the other thing is that if you look at the whole debate, and I don't think that a lot of people stayed to the end because it was uncomfortable to watch. But if you got to the last half hour, you found Biden, like any drunk that anybody's ever met, is ebullient in the first hour or so, and then they lose their energy and they slump over the drink and they're just muttering stuff at the end. He just ran out of gas and turned into sort of a strange, deflated creature toward the end.
Yeah.
And after the break, I'm going to talk with Robert O'Brien, Senior Foreign Policy Advisor to the Romney campaign. I believe the Libya exchange at the beginning had substance to it because the vice president denied having any warning of the security situation. 15 seconds each. Ed, is that going to stand up?
I think it's going to hurt because that's absurd. There was more than one request. There were multiple requests for more security there, and they were being ignored.
James Lileks.
It will stick because as the story develops, we have another administration official, a very highly placed one in this case, who is staked on a position that will be shown to be not so.
James Lileks of Lileks.com, Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com. Thanks to you both, including the role playing. We'll be right back, America. Robert C. O'Brien of Aaron Fox Law Firm, Senior Foreign Policy Advisor to the Romney campaign, on the substance of Joe Biden's Libya position and defense cuts. When we return, stay tuned to the special Salem Radio Network post-debate show.